All right. In this video, I want to talk about the amillennialist point of view. And that point of view is that we are actually in the millennium right now. And apparently, from their point of view, they think that in Revelation chapter 20 is the only place the millennium is actually mentioned in the Bible. And it's mentioned there about 6 times. And that it doesn't mean an actual 1,000 years, it just means a long period of time. And I was like, okay, I'll hear you out. Why do you believe this? And there's not really much substance to it at all. There's no real scriptural reason for it other than what I just told you. And to say that the 1,000 years just means a long period of time, there's no substance to that either. That's just making stuff up. And apparently, from what I've been looking into, is that amillennialists just study the New Testament. They think the whole entire Old Testament has been nailed to the cross and is done away, useless, not needed. And that explains why they would think such a thing, that the millennium is only mentioned in Revelation chapter 20. And I could go through a few things from Ezekiel and Isaiah and a few other places to talk about the millennium in the Old Testament, but I'm just going to go over a couple things here. This picture is blurry. I know I had to zoom in to make it a little bit bigger here. Each one of these circles represents 1,000 years. And I just wanted this up as a reference point, right? So what is said here is not important. This section here, which you probably be able to see, is something that I was actually going to bring up over here. So if you can't see that, don't worry. I'm actually going to read what that says. But anyway, so this 7,000 years is actually broken up into a week. There's 7 circles here of 1,000 years each. So this would be like how we would look at it. It would be like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? How we look at the week. And when you look at Genesis and creation, that's what it'd be: the first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, seventh day. And when we look at Peter, which is set up here, we see something that's being told to us. In 2 Peter chapter 3, it says here at verse 8, "But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day." And why does he say this? Because the Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some may count slackness, but is long-suffering to usward, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. So you see here, why he's telling you this is every time you're reading about the apostles talk about the last days, they're actually talking about the last 2 days of the week. Whenever you see something that says days, weeks, months, years, and there's no number to it, it's always 2. So if it says a day, it's a singular day. A week, it's a week. A month, a year, it's singular. But if it says days, years, and all that, it's actually referring to 2. If it doesn't give you a number, if it doesn't say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever, it's 2. So they'll say a day instead of 1 day, and they'll say days instead of 2, and then they'll say 3 days, 4 days, 5 days after that, right? So if you saw something that said in days, weeks, months, years, such and such will happen, what it's saying is in 2 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, and 2 days, this is going to happen. It's a 2, right? So when they say the last days, they're talking about the last 2,000 years. So they were grasping that there's still 2,000 years left. And that's what Peter's telling them here. There's still 2,000 years, right? And the millennium is the Sabbath. Like we read in creation, man's created on the 6th day, And then the seventh day God rested, right? And then at the Mount Sinai covenant with Israel, with the nation of Israel, they have a fourth commandment that tells them to work 6 days, but to remember the Sabbath where God created everything and rest on the seventh day. And this was to point them to two things. One is the millennium, something physical. The spiritual aspect is resting from their work of trying to save themselves. Because you see, the reason why they worked for 6 days is because Adam was cursed to till the ground to get food. So he had to work to support his body, to save his flesh, right? So they would work for the 6 days and then rest the seventh. They would do as God did, where he created everything in 6 days and rested. So they did the same thing. They would do their work, trying to save themselves, and then rest. And that's basically that mindset there, is you cease from your trying to save yourself and just have faith in God that he finished the work from the foundation of the world. Because from the foundation of the world, God, who created everything in chapter 1 of Genesis, known as Elohim, all of a sudden becomes Lord God, or Yahweh, which means behold the hand, behold the nail. So right there on that Sabbath day in Genesis chapter 2, God already becomes the Savior, telling you to remember this day where he already finished the work of not only creation, but your salvation. Right there, and he rested from it on that seventh day. He told you the end from the beginning, right? So he told you that there's a 1,000-year millennial reign Sabbath rest. And we can read that throughout the Bible, where there's this period of time that's going to be in the future where Jesus reigns on earth. And that the animals no longer eat each other and they don't attack people anymore. You know, the lion will eat hay and the wolf will lay with the lamb and all these things. It's a different world. It's more like how Garden of Eden was. We'll get a taste of that. But to show this in the Old Testament, I just wanted to bring up one passage here. And it's in Zechariah chapter 14. And it says here at verse 1, Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the house rifled, and the women ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. So here is the key thing. This has not happened. It says all nations. It doesn't say a nation or a group of nations. It says all. This is not something that's happened in the past. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations. That has not happened. As when he fought in the day of battle, and his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives. So he's actually going to come down on the earth and fight this battle, which is before Jerusalem on the east, and on the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west, and there shall be a very great valley, and half of the mountain shall remove toward the north, and half towards the south. This obviously has not happened. And ye shall flee to the valley of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Azal. Yea, ye shall flee like as ye fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah king of Judah. And the Lord my God shall come, and all the saints with thee. And that's just what we read about in the New Testament about Jesus when he comes back, having all the saints with him as well. All those who have been raptured. And then at verse 6 here, and it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark, but it shall be one day which shall be known to the Lord, not day nor night, but it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light. This has not happened. And it shall be in that day that living waters shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them toward the former sea, and half of them toward the hinder sea, In summer and winter shall it be, and the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Lord, and his name one. This has not happened. Even Jesus says that Satan is the god of this world, the ruler of this world. God has not come, stood upon the Mount of Olives, cleaved it in half, fought against all the nations of the world, and then great rivers coming out of Jerusalem. That has not happened. This is just one. I figured it was good enough because it connects some things in like Revelation about the Mount of Olives and also about the Lord coming with the saints. So it's telling you, again, stuff we read in the New Testament. But there's others, but I wanted to make this video quick just to show that, yeah, the New Testament talks about this millennial period. And there's a lot more to it, but I just wanted to do that little part. But I wanted to end it by bringing up something that's somewhat off subject, but it's adding to this 1,000-year day thing. You see how right here after 4,000 years, it shows the cross here, right? Because this is about the time where Jesus was crucified. Now, these dates might not be right, but it's basically saying that, you know, it started the fall as at 3,972 BC, and about 4,000 years later, Jesus is crucified, and they say 28 AD. So 2,000 years later is 2028 AD. So that's why a lot of people thinking that the rapture is going to happen, because they're thinking of a 7-year tribulation. Except from what I've been reading, there's only a 3.5-year period. So that is not 2021, 2022 time period. That's actually more of a 2024 to 2025. So like between the spring of 2024 and the fall of 2025 is when I would think a rapture would be, if these dates are correct. If. That's a big if. It's really hard to tell, because you can find dates of Jesus crucified between 28 AD and 34 AD. I think those are the ones that I generally find, and there might be a few that are a little bit sooner or a little bit later. But that's generally where I find most of the people agreeing is somewhere between 28 and 34 AD. So take that for what it's worth. I mean, how are we supposed to know? Unless God personally comes and tells you, right? But anyway, so the point of bringing this up is that Jesus was crucified in the midst of the week. Well, that's what a lot of people think anyway. From my study, it's hard to figure that one out, because if you go by the lunar calendar, it seems as though he was crucified on a Friday. You know, what they call Good Friday. But the whole 3 days and 3 nights doesn't add in. So that's why a lot of people agree, well, not only did Jesus come 4,000 years in to die, but he also was crucified in the midst of a week. And it's interesting, because how they see it is that this night here, ending, what is it here? I'm trying to put this together. Okay, so it'd be actually Tuesday night, he has the Passover dinner, right? And then he's taken in the night. They go through that bogus trial, and they're condemning him in that morning, and then they finally have him beaten and everything, and he's crucified in the afternoon, or actually it's not. I think it's actually at the 9th hour. It's actually in the morning, but it's not until the afternoon where he gives up the ghost, around like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I think they said it was like around the 9th hour. Don't quote me on this. Try going by memory here. And they said it was evening when they were trying to get his body. So uh, you got to take into consideration that they had to go to Pilate and say, "Hey, we want Jesus' body," and he's like, "He's dead." So he sent somebody to go check with the people at the cross to see if Jesus was dead, and then come back to him and go, "Yes, he's dead," and then he would give them uh, the authority to take Jesus' body. So then they leave to go get the body, and then they prepare it and put him into the grave or the tomb before the next day. And this kind of defeats the purpose of people saying that the day starts at evening, because through reading the text, they did not get him into the tomb before sunset, because it was already evening, and they had to spend a lot of time going to Pilate, going to make sure he was dead, getting the authority. And it's not as if as soon as they went to see Pilate, that they immediately got his attention and got a meeting with him to inquire if they could take the body of Jesus. So it's not as like this was bang, 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 bang. No, this had to have taken some time. So they didn't actually get Jesus' body into the tomb until it's about midnight, right? So they say the next day is the Sabbath because it's the uh, first day of unleavened bread. This day would have been the Passover on Wednesday. It would have been the 14th. Thursday would be the 15th, the first day of unleavened bread. And then what we read in the scriptures is that Jesus rose from the dead, I guess around midnight on the first day of the week, actually over here. When Sunday, the sun's coming up, the tomb was already opened up and the dead were already rose and what have you. And they were showing up to that tomb right at daybreak. One of the depictions says that they were heading there and the sun wasn't even up yet. And some of it says they were there and the sun just came up. So it was very early in the morning when they got to the tomb and he was already risen. So if we take this into consideration, what we have here is half a night for Wednesday night, a full night for Thursday night, so 1.5. Friday night is 2.5, and then half the night through Saturday would be 3 nights. And then you would have all day Thursday, all day Friday, all day Saturday, and then rose by this morning, so you have 3 days and 3 nights. So that fits. But fitting it to a lunar calendar, that doesn't quite add up. So some of these things I'm not quite sure what's correct, but I thought I would add this in the video since I had this up, because it fits in with the actual 1,000 years for a day. And what's interesting is that Jesus is actually put in the tomb in the middle of the night, and depending how you see that, this changes the time drastically of how much time is actually left, depending when the day and the night, when the actual day starts. And what I mean by that is some people take it where this is sunset and it's the start of Thursday. And then once the night's done, it's Thursday, the actual daylight period, and that ends at sunset. So they go sunset to sunset is a day. But taking it from this point of view, the Sabbath doesn't start until the daylight portion. So the day starts at actual day, not actually at sunset. But there's, you go through studying the scriptures and you'll find a day looks like it starts at evening, and then sometimes you'll see the day starts when the sun rises. So it seems to be able to go either way. I'm not quite sure which way, wherever your conscience is drawing you. But from this point of view, looking at Jesus being put in the tomb and they couldn't break the Sabbath, then the day didn't start until sunrise. Or else they broke the Sabbath to put Jesus in the tomb. And I'm not sure if they would do that. Maybe they did. But they seem to be wanting to rush to get that done before the Sabbath. So, yeah. Anyway, that's that. I know I got off subject here, but it fits the whole 1,000-year thing. This amillennial point of view, I never really heard it out before because it just didn't make sense. Like, we're in the millennium right now. Like, that doesn't make sense because you read about, like I said, the wolf laying with the lamb and the lion eating hay, and there's no more nighttime, and there's just peace. So it's kind of like this is not the millennium, not at all. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, let's say amillennialists are right. Then I was like, why don't you? All right, before I say this, I'm not saying this to be mean and hateful, like, oh, I don't like you, you should just die. But I was like, why not just kill yourself? Because that was my point of view. I was like, okay, we're in the millennium. Well, this sucks. This kingdom that's going on sucks. And we have no rapture to look forward to, no millennial reign to look forward to. Why not just die and go to heaven? Why? Why not? Or if not, kill yourself. Go crazy getting that gospel out everywhere until somebody kills you and you get to go home as a martyr. Right? But that's that. Just my 2 cents on that one. But anyway, thanks for watching and take care.